Something about this doesn't feel right. The faces don't change. The voices don't slip. Every scene connects too perfectly, like it was all planned down to the smallest detail. But it wasn't, because what you're looking at doesn't exist in the real world. No cameras followed these shots. No actors performed these scenes. No production team stitched this together behind the scenes. And yet, it looks like it did. So the real question isn't what you're watching, it's how this is even possible. Because creating something like this used to be complicated, messy, and almost impossible to control until now. And once you see what's actually happening behind the scenes, you won't just understand it, you'll realize you can build it yourself. The clip you just saw wasn't recorded. No camera captured it. No actors performed it. No real set ever existed. Every frame, every character, every movement, generated entirely using AI. But that's not the part that should surprise you. What actually matters is how controlled it is. Nothing shifts randomly. Nothing breaks between scenes. The characters stay consistent, the visuals stay stable, and everything feels like it was designed with intention. And that's exactly what you're going to learn. How to create AI videos that don't fall apart the moment you try to scale them. Because until recently, that was the biggest problem. Here's what the process used to look like. You generate images in one tool, then move those images into another platform just to animate them, then switch again to create voiceovers. And somewhere in the middle, you'd try fixing character inconsistencies that kept ruining everything. And even after doing all of that, it still didn't feel right. Faces would slightly change, voices wouldn't match, scenes wouldn't connect. You could feel the inconsistency, even if you couldn't immediately explain it. The problem wasn't your idea, the problem was the workflow. It was scattered, disconnected, and almost impossible to control. But now, that entire system has been compressed into one single, structured environment. No switching tools, no patching errors, no guessing what went wrong. Everything happens in one place. You start by creating a new project and assigning it a name. Simple step, but what opens next changes the entire experience. Because this isn't just an interface, it's a production system. Everything is organized in a way that keeps your workflow clean from the very beginning, so nothing spirals out of control later. At the center of it, you'll find two sections that control everything: framing and directing. Framing is where you create the visuals. Directing is where those visuals become motion. Now that might sound familiar. Most AI tools offer something similar, but here's where this completely changes. The real advantage isn't just generating images or videos, it's controlling identity. Instead of generating random characters every time, you're working with characters that stay exactly the same across every scene, every frame, every angle. And that single shift changes everything. You can either choose from pre-built characters or create your own from scratch. And when you move into character creation, you're not just typing a prompt and hoping for a decent result. You're guiding the system. You get a dedicated prompt area, but more importantly, you get reference-based control. Two options define how your character behaves: match exactly or inspiration. If you select match exactly, the system locks onto your reference image and keeps the output extremely close to it. This is what ensures strong, reliable consistency. But if you choose inspiration, the system introduces controlled variation, adding flexibility without losing direction. And this is where things become powerful. You're not limited to a single reference. You can assign one image for identity and another for style. For example, you can lock a specific face using one reference and then apply the visual style of something completely different using another. The result is a character that looks exactly the way you want, but styled in a completely new way. Once your prompt is ready, you don't need to overthink it. You can enhance it automatically, refining the output without leaving the workspace. Everything stays contained. Everything stays efficient. And when your character is generated, you'll notice something immediately. It holds its structure. Even if small variations appear, the identity doesn't break. But here's where most tools completely fail: maintaining that consistency over time. And that's exactly where the next step changes everything. Instead of relying on a single image, you generate your character from multiple angles: front, side, different perspectives. This isn't just for visuals. It allows the system to understand your character more deeply, which means when you use it later, it doesn't drift. It doesn't distort. It stays exactly the way it was designed. And while that process is running, there's another layer you can lock in: voice. You can assign a specific voice to your character, choosing from different tones, styles, and pitch ranges. And once that voice is linked, it stays consistent across every scene. No mismatches, no sudden changes. Same character, same voice, every time. Now your angles are ready, and if you look closely, everything aligns perfectly. No inconsistencies, no surprises. At this point, your character isn't just created, it's ready for production. And once you bring it back into your project, you're not working with a simple image anymore. You're working with a fully defined entity. Appearance, structure, multiple angles, and voice all locked in. Which is exactly why even longer projects don't fall apart. And using this same process, you can build an entire cast in minutes. What once required casting decisions, planning, and massive budgets now happens in a few controlled steps. But even now, you're only halfway there. Because having characters is one thing, turning them into scenes that actually feel real, that's where everything changes next. Now this is where most creators lose control, because turning characters into actual scenes usually means dealing with a broken workflow: start frame, end frame, then somehow forcing motion in between. And that's where everything starts to fall apart. Frames don't align, movements feel off. The scene loses its realism almost instantly, but here it doesn't. Inside the framing section, you're not guessing your way through prompts, you're guided. You can describe the full scene in detail, or follow a structured system that helps you define every element with precision. Start with your character, place them into the scene, then define the location. You can build it yourself or select from pre-designed environments. And just like characters, locations stay consistent across angles, so nothing randomly shifts or breaks between shots. Next comes action. What is your character doing? This is where your scene starts to take shape. Then you define composition, how the viewer experiences that moment: wide, close, from behind, from above. You control the perspective, then you shape the mood: cinematic or stylized, bright or dark, calm or intense. Every detail adds to how real the scene feels. And then comes the layer that changes everything: camera control. You're not just generating visuals, you're deciding how they're captured. Camera angles, shot types, lighting setups. Tools used in real filmmaking are now directly in your hands. Once everything is set, you generate your frame, and within seconds, it appears. Clean, structured, exactly as described. You can reuse the same frame or create variations depending on how much motion you want. Then you move into directing. This is where everything comes alive. You define the motion, what actually happens in the scene. Then you add sound, dialogue, effects, background layers. You control duration, camera movement, even the voice tied to your character. And with a single click, the scene becomes a video. What matters even more, everything stays organized. Every frame, every version, every shot is placed inside a clean timeline. Nothing gets lost, nothing overlaps. And if you want to build further, you simply add another shot. Now here's where it gets even more powerful. You're not limited to one character. You can bring multiple characters into the same scene, and everything still stays consistent. Their appearance, their interaction, their placement inside the environment, it all holds together. In most tools, this is where everything breaks. Here, it doesn't, and it goes even further. You can control resolution, aspect ratio, camera type, even lens selection. And that might sound like a small detail, but it changes everything. Because now, you're not just generating content, you're directing it. Different lenses create different emotions. Different camera setups completely change how a scene feels. And with that level of control, you're no longer limited by the tool. You're only limited by your imagination. So if you step back and look at the full process, you create characters, you lock their identity, you place them into consistent environments, you design structured frames, you control motion, sound, and camera behavior, all inside one system. No chaos, no disconnect, no compromises. And that's exactly how the sequence you saw earlier was built, shot by shot, with full control from start to finish. Now here's the real question. If something like this can be created without cameras, without actors, or without a production team, then what's actually stopping you? Because at this point, it's not about tools anymore. It's about whether you're ready to create. So don't just watch this and move on. Try it. Build something, break something. Experiment until it feels real enough to question. And if this opened your mind even slightly, don't let it end here. Like the video, so more people. Discover what's possible, share it with someone who needs to see this shift, and subscribe. Because what you create next might not just look real, it might feel impossible to ignore.